Howdy. All right. Welcome to Obfuscate Breakdown Edition. This is kind of since I can't really post anything in my community tab. Actually, no, I can post things in my community tab. I just don't think they get out to people. Okay, maybe I should just start posting things in my community tab. Not exactly sure. I think there's like, I can't share videos or something like that, and I want to share more people's videos, but most likely I can at least do some stuff in my community tab. So I'll probably start doing that and trying to like, put more information out there for anybody in terms of like for programming and stuff. But I wanted to do a quick breakdown of this video. Now, my breakdown videos are, you can pretty much say they're like reaction videos, but we got this video from Tina Huang. That's kind of how I pronounce it, so I'm probably screwing that name up. But go ahead and subscribe to her channel and check her out. Actually, I will be, boop, go ahead and subscribe there. But I will be watching some more of her content into the future. But this one is how to self-study technical things. And she also has another video on how to learn data sciences in 2021, the minimize effort, maximize outcome way. Okay, so that's cool. I'll give that a like. I haven't watched that video, but she talks about it in this video, which she's actually showing that video. So that's why it looks like that. But so let's go ahead and play this, and we'll go ahead and play this at 1.5 playback speed here. All right, fair use, I guess I have to say. But I thought this was a good video, and honestly, I probably won't be using much out of it. I just want to get the list that she's talking about, and go from there. All right, let's listen.
I introduced a framework for learning that sets you up for success in learning data science from scratch. In that video, I focus on the implementation of this framework in data science, but really this is a general framework for learning technical things. And this is the framework. 1. Learn just enough, and then do a project. Then iterate, iterate, iterate. And the most important component, accountability. As much of it and whenever, wherever possible. So in this video, I'm going to go more into important components.
All right, cool. So that's really it. That's all I want from the video. But I did want to show you this video and get you introduced to her channel. If you guys aren't already, she's a bigger channel. This one almost has like a 500,000 views. So that's pretty cool. And she has like 86,000 subscribers. So this video had great impact for having that little or that subscriber to views ratio. That's pretty good. So yeah, one, learn just enough, and this is so true. And this is like my take and my spin and experience on this. But learn just enough. So when people talk about like learning, you don't have to learn completely. You don't have to learn everything about a language to get started. To get started, all you have to really do is learn the basics in terms of like, okay, how do I assign things to variables? How do I actually write logic? What are the type of loops that I actually have? And then you can start getting into higher order functions like you have with JavaScript. You can also get into, or also another base thing is syntax. What are the do's and don'ts? How do I actually write this language or write in this language to be quote unquote effective, or make it actually compile properly and actually have it do what I want it to actually do, instead of just saying, okay, I want it to do this, you write something and then it doesn't do what you expect it to. So kind of being effective or being uh, proficient with the syntax of the language itself. And you can think of syntax as like grammar or sentence structure and stuff like that. Do you add a period? Do you add an exclamation point? When do you capitalize certain letters? Things like that. And that's really your syntax. And then after that, you have to worry about your uh, the logic. Does your sentence actually make sense? I think it's like adverb agreement or something like that. I don't know. But are you using nouns properly? Um, and then okay, I don't know English, but you guys get the gist of what I'm trying to say there. And then the next thing is like, once you learn enough, then you can start working on a program. Maybe you have a program that just takes two inputs and then gives you an output, it adds those two inputs. So do a project. So one of the the most kind of the favorite project a lot of people do is a calculator. So first, what you do is you find out how to take input or user input or variables, even if you just actually put in your own input and you make it static. So you have two variables and you want to add them together. It's like, all right, cool. So now do you add those two variables just in line, or do you use a function to actually add those two variables together? So stuff like that. And then after that, like once you like make a calculator, it's like, okay, how can you make that calculator better? How can you actually do things in that calculator to make it to where it's like, okay, now I'm taking user input from maybe a web form. How am I sanitizing all that stuff? And you start to see where you're just building on one thing onto the other. So there's layers to it. And with those layers, you can do even more in terms of like, okay, um, now that I have this as my base layer, how can I make it to where it is quote unquote foolproof or there are no errors? And then sometimes you don't have to just like, um, you know, sometimes you don't have, oh, and we're getting into the iterate part right here. This is what she's talking about, in terms of like iterate, iterate, iterate. So do it over and over and over again. Either improve on that program or improve on that skill that you've actually learned by doing that base program. So that's kind of the gist of it. And then she talks about accountability. So accountability is kind of like what I do with my live streams for the Obfuscate. It's like, okay, well, if I'm finding quote unquote a hard time doing coding, maybe I have to quote unquote do it for somebody else or do it in front of somebody else. Maybe I am not assessing the proper value to the work that I'm doing, and I need some other type of value, maybe even validation, if you will, that you want to put out to other people, or that you want to not put out to other people, but you want to put in front of other people, so that you can actually keep yourself quote unquote honest. So that's kind of what happens with when you're doing like live stream. You say, hey, listen, or that's kind of what happens when I'm doing live streams and I say, hey, this is good for me and I hope it helps you. I'm really trying to help myself by doing this because it's like, okay, I'm holding myself accountable by doing these live streams at certain times. Now, I do cancel live streams and I do back out, or I do them late or something like that. Or I take my time and I don't do much outside of the live stream, which has been a recent problem because of like my night job, my new night job here. So I don't really get to work on my own projects as much as I was before, and making further progress. And then also sometimes it's harder to make progress because I'm only doing it within a 1 2 hour span or something like that. So these are things that I want to improve with my current state, or my current workload. But at the same time, from in terms of what I was doing before, which was nothing, I am a lot better. So it's like, okay, building on top of that, iterating through that, making it better. And the same thing goes for your code. You iterate through your code, you refactor your code, you make your, instead of using, say, IDs for certain fields, maybe you use a class to collect all the information from certain fields so that you don't have to write some a code that is less dynamic. So it's like, for instance, if you wanted to add a new value that you wanted to collect in JavaScript, or if you're using like vanilla JS or anything like that, and you wanted to add a new value that you need to collect and actually validate or add or what have you. I mean, do you add another? Maybe you have a form that has 100 things on it, and it's like, okay, well, that gets kind of gnarly when it comes to putting IDs on things. Now it's like, okay, you should write classes instead, and when you write those classes, or what you or sorry, you collect values based on a class, so that way you can actually filter through that class, maybe add certain things that you don't want, double certain things that you do want, and so on and so forth from there. If you guys seen what I've done and worked with in terms of classes and using the query selector all, as opposed to using just a get element by ID, when I use that, I can actually iterate through all those different classes and all those different input fields. Now I'm a little bit more specific where I put my classes, but you can see where how it's beneficial, and I can get all that done within maybe 5 10 lines of code for a function, depending on what I'm doing with it, as opposed to a larger function that might have an input of a whole bunch of an array of uh, you know uh, element IDs, and those element IDs are being, I have to track all of those element IDs, collect them, reuse them, and all types of other stuff. So this is the iterate, iterate, iterate portion of it, where we're back to the iterate, iterate, iterate portion of it, where I'm looking at that. But if I don't, you know, do that work, do the studying, do the spend the time to gain that experience, which is the accountability, being accountable to yourself or maybe a third party person or an arbiter or even taking a course, which she talks about in her video, and I'll link her video in the description. Then if you need something like that, there are ways you can actually get it. And sometimes you can just say, hey, listen, maybe you want to hold yourself accountable to your children so you can actually have a better life, or accountable to your significant other, or accountable to yourself, more importantly, because essentially that's the most important person at the end of the day, whether man or woman. Yourself is the most important because yourself, if you're weak, then anything you do for another person is subject or is destined to fail because you, as a foundation for the promise that you actually make or you're trying to keep, for that promise, you may not hold up to it because of your own weakness in terms of your foundation. So that promise is backed by who you are as a person. And if you're not accountable and you're not holding yourself accountable to these things to make towards improvement or anything else like that, then it's almost worthless. So, harsh, but in some cases, but that's kind of accountability in a nutshell. Anyways, I kind of went all over the place with this towards the end here, but definitely watch this video. My video is almost my little breakdown is almost as long as hers, but I wanted to break this video down a little bit and talk about the concepts that she did, and she expands on it more and more. But I did definitely wanted to bring this to you all. As always, hey, listen, man, if you're not taking what I say with a grain of salt, then you're low in sodium. Please go out and do your research, watch her video, subscribe to her channel, and hopefully you can get some value out of that. Alrighty, peace.